We are entering what I believe is the most bullish part of the bull market. The market is flashing signals that are stronger than before, and all signs suggest that we are getting close to that final push before we put in the cycle high. Now yes, there could still be a pullback here in September. In fact, history almost suggests that we should expect that. But once that plays out, a lot of data is pointing to November as a key moment. Potentially the time to think about taking some profits off the table. Everything is lining up. The September FOMC meeting where we might get rate cuts, the repeating 4-year cycle pattern, and of course Bitcoin's historical returns. Nobody has a crystal ball, and yes, a lot of this is educated guesswork, but history leaves a lot of clues, and right now those clues suggest a possible cycle top in November. Now could this just be a local top before we get another push even higher? Sure. Could it be the top before a brutal bear market? Also possible. I'm not here to pretend that I can call the exact top, but I'm going to walk you through the data, the history, and my personal opinion on all this. To start, let's zoom out and look at the big picture. Bitcoin has gone through 4 very clear cycles in its history, and each one follows the same rhythm. A painful bear market where prices collapse 70 to 80%, a long accumulation phase where nobody cares about crypto anymore, a euphoric bull run where everyone suddenly wants in, and finally a reset back into the bear market. If you have been in this space for a while, you have probably seen this famous psychological chart. It goes from disbelief to hope to optimism to thrill and finally to euphoria. And then on the way down, it's denial, anger, depression. So where are we today in 2025? Looking at the data and the sentiment, I will argue that we are right before the euphoric phase. People are starting to turn more bullish again, and the media is covering Bitcoin in a very positive way. And leverage in the market is creeping up. Those are classic signals that we are getting close to getting that final push. But of course, those charts are just pictures. To really understand what's happening, let's look at the actual data and Bitcoin's historical data. Before we dive into the charts, let's quickly answer a common question. Why focus so much on Bitcoin? Why not just talk about Ethereum, Solana, or some hot altcoin? The reason is pretty simple. Bitcoin leads the market. When Bitcoin goes up, liquidity flows into the rest of the market, and then the altcoins go up. When Bitcoin crashes, altcoins just don't dip a little bit, they crash even harder. If you want to know where the entire crypto market is heading, Bitcoin is the place to look. So why am I focusing so much on September and November in particular? Let's start with September. Historically, September has almost always been a weak month for Bitcoin. We tend to see pullbacks here, usually down to the bull market support band. That's happening right now in 2025 too. But right after September, we usually get a catalyst that drives the market even higher. And this year, one of the biggest catalysts is the FOMC meeting here in September. Right now, the expectations are very high that we are gonna get a rate cut. And that is really good for risk assets like crypto. Now, does that automatically mean that the market tops right after the rate cut? No, but this macro could be what fuels the final push of the cycle. Now, if we zoom out and use this 4-year cycle framework, here's what we see. Historically, Bitcoin bull markets tend to top in Q4, October, November, December, before we roll over to the bear market. And if we look at Bitcoin's monthly returns, the data is pretty clear. In post-halving years, October, November are the strongest months consistently. And when you check the charts during these periods, the cycle tops have often lined up with November or early December. That's why so many people, including me, are paying close attention, because we are getting really close to that time frame again here in 2025. Let's break down the last 3 cycles so you can see this clearly. 2013, September pullback into the bull market support band, then an explosive rally into November, which turned out to be the cycle top. After that, the bear market began. 2017, same pattern. September dip into support, then a huge rally in Q4 with the cycle peaking in December. 2021, and again the same story. September pullback, strong rally into November, market topped, and then we slid into the bear market. 3 times in a row this pattern played out. And here we are again in 2025. September pullback, sitting at the bull market support band currently. So the question is, will history repeat itself for a 4th time? Or do we finally break this 4-year cycle pattern? Let's talk numbers. I know that's what everybody wants to know. What is the potential top this time around? On the charts, Bitcoin is currently inside a massive megaphone pattern. This pattern has a potential target of around $205,000. Inside this big megaphone, there is also a smaller megaphone pattern pointing toward $145,000. Now, 205k sounds amazing, but we also gotta be a bit realistic. That would require an extreme amount of FOMO, probably driven by retail investors coming in at the very end. 145k on the other hand sounds way more realistic in my opinion. It lines up with the cycle extensions and is also one of my personal profit targets. Here's the interesting part. Both patterns share the same breakout point. That means if Bitcoin breaks out, both of these targets are technically in play. That's why this setup is so fascinating. But what if this is the cycle where we finally break the 4-year cycle pattern? After all, crypto is not the same as it was in 2017 and even 2021. We now have institutional adoption. We have spot ETFs. We have massive funds and even the government is involved. Doesn't that change the game a little bit maybe? It might, but here's why I think the 4-year rhythm still matters. Despite all this institutional involvement, about 66% of Bitcoin is still owned by individuals. And individuals drive markets with sentiment. They FOMO at the top, they panic sell at the bottom, they take too much leverage and get liquidated. As long as individuals dominate the markets, the psychology of bull and bear markets won't disappear. Profit taking will still matter, fear and greed will still matter. And that means we'll still see explosive rallies and brutal crashes. Alright, let's also talk a little bit about altcoins, because I know a lot of you aren't just holding Bitcoin. If history repeats, Bitcoin will rally first and then the alt market will follow. Once Bitcoin starts to slow down a bit or top out, that's usually when the money rotates into the alt market and they explode like crazy. I personally believe Ethereum and Solana could finish off 2025 with a stronger percentage gain than Bitcoin. There are a lot of ETFs on the horizon and Solana could get one too. If Solana does, that could bring a lot of attention and liquidity into the market. So yes, altcoin season is likely coming, but only if Bitcoin rallies first. That's why I keep saying watch Bitcoin, because it sets the tone for everything else. So let's bring all this together. We are entering the most bullish part of the bull market. History shows that September tends to bring a pullback, followed by an explosive rally into October and November. 3 times in a row this pattern has played out. Right now in 2025, the same pattern is starting to unfold. My personal outlook, I think 145k is a realistic target for this cycle. 205k is not impossible, but it depends on how hot the markets get. Either way, I will probably still be taking some profits off the table once we hit 145k. But here's my warning, don't get caught up with the euphoria and think prices will go up forever. That's when people get wrecked. Have a plan, remember to take profits, because one thing history shows us, bull markets don't last forever. Now I want to hear from you guys. Do you think this is the cycle where Bitcoin tops out in November again? Or do you think this is the time where we break this 4-year cycle pattern? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown and maybe learned one thing or two, please hit the like and subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.